as we enter into the sacred space of listening and receiving, I invite you to join me in this short induction ceremony in order to be fully open, receptive, and aligned with the information that is for your highest good in this conversation today. Begin by closing your eyes and taking a deep breath into the belly. And as you're breathing, bring your awareness into your heart center, making contact with the light in your heart. And find your heart light glowing, growing and expanding out around your chest. And now bring that light of your heart up through your crown center, through the top of the head, extending up all the way above you into central sun, making contact with the heart energy of central sun. And then bring that powerful energy down through the ethers into the crown of your head, down through your body, and into your heart center, expanding and joining with the light in your heart, and continuing down to the base of your spine, extending down all the way down into the center of the earth, making contact with the heart center of Mother Earth. And now bring that nurturing energy up through the layers of the earth, carrying liquid crystal plasma through roots up into the base of your spine, and then spreading into every cell of your body, moving into the heart center, joining with the light from above and joining with the light of your heart, creating a holy trinity of light within you, and then spreading out around you, holding space for your highest good, your highest awakening, and the opening to receive the divine downloads, encodements, activations, and light codes that are perfect for you at this time. Breathe that in deeply into your belly, allowing yourself to expand in this energy and opening to step in to the container of receiving. Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 6. We are exploring expanded states of consciousness. And today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Sheila Seppi. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. And I'm so happy to have you back. So if you did watch season 5, you have already seen Sheila, and maybe you've seen her out there in the world of the internet because you are really kind of all over the place now, and you've got more books coming out, and Sheila has the Wish Alliance, and you're just up to so many amazing things. So rather than read about you, I'd love for you to share with the audience about your work.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me back. I love talking to people and sharing my story in hopes that something that I say is going to help, spark an awakening or a deeper connection with their inner self or their guide. So thank you so much, and for all the wonderful work you do as well. So I am Sheila Seppi. I live in Colorado in the high Rocky Mountains, 10,200 feet up. And I think that's not by accident, because here I'm able to really ground deeply, because I tend to kind of want to drift up into the ethers, but the mountains and the clean air and the water here really helps to keep me grounded. And so I'm always grateful for where I live. And being here, being outdoors and connecting has really allowed me to step into more of who I truly am and my mission. So I moved to Colorado. Well, I became a walk-in 1999, and many of you have heard that story. And so from 1999 until 2004, I lived in Kentucky. And then I met and married my husband, who's in Colorado. And once I moved here, one of the first things that happened is I was called to open my own business, my own healing business. And I did so, called Spirit Way Wellness Center. And initially I was doing spiritual teachings. And in that, my guides told me people cannot drop into the essence of who they truly are when their bodies are in pain. And so I began to ask, what do I need to learn? How do I need to help people get out of pain? And I began to learn a plethora of healing modalities, which then I began to implement. And so over time, I thought, wow, I'm doing exactly what they need me to do. And so being a spiritual teacher expanded to then becoming a healer. And then they told me, go bigger, go bigger. And throughout my life, they have challenged me to the point that they have brought me to where I'm an author and an international speaker. And one of the ways that I'm able to implement my going bigger and getting my message out is through programming like this and through the Wish Alliance. And so I'm always indebted to my guides and always want to share my information. And so I guess in a nutshell, some of the programming that I do with people, and I'm talking about individual programming with their DNA, with their crystalline blueprint, is I will work with them not only to get them out of pain, but to help physically to realign them, as well as emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I will do that through a crystalline blueprint reading where I'm able to go in to look at, their galactic history, to find out a little bit more about who they are. And then based on what I see, then I'm able to go in and to kind of weave a healing pattern for them. And then many people can just take that and use it as a springboard and go about, their life. The other thing that I do is with the Wish Alliance, and I feel so grateful. Spirit opens all the doors. All I have to do is walk in. I tell people, ask me a lot of times, they're like, oh my God, you're so busy. How do you get everything done? And it's like, I'm the laziest person you'll ever meet because I let Spirit do it all. I let my guides do everything for me. And all I have to do is follow that lead. And so one morning I was awakened about 5 o'clock in the morning and said, hey, you're going to start a Starseed Academy. I'm like, Starseed Academy, Starseed Academy. And I started researching this, and I tell them, there's already a Starseed Academy. I don't understand what's going on. But then over time and working with the concept and talking with several people, decided that this was a place, a community, a hub where people could come together that were walk-ins, indigos, star seeds, hybrids, people who were having a spiritual awakening, a kundalini awakening, people who were just curious. And that's how the Wish Alliance came in to be. And so I started interviewing people on Thursday nights with the Cosmic Conversations, and now on Monday nights I have the Conscious Awakening series, and I bring on all kinds of different speakers, and my guides are like, that's the go bigger. That's the go bigger. And so I'm always thrilled when I, receive information from them.
Yes, beautiful. And I've had the pleasure to be part of Wish Alliance and to tune in and speak and be part of that. And I love the community. I know that there are people that are so connected and come to all of the talks. And then people like me, I just come when I can. And it's really wonderful to have that, because it's not, there is, of course, always the presenter, but there are also like these faces that you get to know and people that you get to know outside of it. And that's that community, which is just so beautiful. So thank you so much for that service.
Thank my guides.
Thank you, guides.
Right,
Yes.
thank you guys.
Yes. And I know how that is because I, like you, got that push at some point. Like
Yes,
now you get to go be in front of people and share these things. And
I know.
yeah, and it's an
Yes,
expansion. And
yes.
I always kind of wonder, well, like, why didn't that happen in my 20s or 30s when I was,
Right.
cuter and more energetic and and but it happens when and I also feel like I needed to reach like a certain point in my development, maybe feel the same, where I could hold space for a group, and really not have it be about me, and I think
Right.
it's everything in due time, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, when I walked in, I came into the body of a 38-year-old woman. And some people walk in at a much younger age, but I didn't need the birth process or the growing up process. I really needed an adult form that was ready to hit the ground running. And through my, I guess it was about 10 years that it took me to do a lot of the cellular clearing and bring in those DNA upgrades and open up those light codes. But after that, then everything just really started flowing. And it was during that time that I began to question my guides. And it was like, now, is this like a hostile takeover? Did I just jump into this body and push the soul out? And at that time, they began to explain to me, no, absolutely not. Now, in the book I wrote, I explain a little bit of the process, but I'd like to share a little bit more in depth about that process and what I was shown. So, in the beginning, I was shown that there was source energy or God or the divine one, however people want to refer to that one state of being. And then within that state there was this desire to expand, to create, to experience. And when that expansion began to occur, the first thing that happened was there was that sound that came forth. And from the sound, then we had light. And after the light, there was the frequency, the vibration, the oscillations. But within that, what was happening with that expansion, all of that energy expanded. That first level of expanded energy is what we call the void. And that was all that pure plasma that has now formed the entire universe. And so that expansion began to occur, and within that void, there are templates and blueprints. And these are templates of creation and blueprints for everything that has ever been created. Now, we a lot of times will think, man, I had this great idea. But the reality of it is that was already imprinted into that being that we are. And it was one of the choices we made. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But as we began to expand and as these blueprints, these templates began to occur, one of them was for the oversoul. Now, there are many, many, many layers, but the basics of what they showed me at that time is we have this massive, for a lack of better terms, this overseer. It's a master oversoul. And found within that master oversoul, then we have other templates. And there's the templates then for this particular universe that we live in. And so we have the universal oversoul. From that universal oversoul, we then have like this cosmic or this galactic oversoul. And let me pull this, let's see. According to NASA, we have the cosmic and galactic systems that are out there is 10 to the 20th power. That's a lot of oversouls. Okay, and so one of those oversouls then is the planetary oversoul for Gaia. So that's another individual oversoul. And within that planetary oversoul, we have what's called an experiential oversoul. And there are 12 of those. And I have been shown that each of those 12 oversouls then relates to one of the octaves found within our DNA. And so that was really exciting to me because I kept thinking, okay, so with these oversouls, if I come through this compassionate oversoul, all I'm to experience in this lifetime is compassion, right? And they're like, no, 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 no. You go through all of these 12 oversouls. Maybe you get it accomplished in one lifetime, maybe it's 63 lifetimes, but you go through all 12 of these oversouls before you progress out from the earth experience. I was like, okay. But found within these oversouls are other clusters of oversouls that have these like vibrations. And these like vibrations create what we call our soul groups or our soul families. And you can think of these soul families like a cluster of grapes. And one of those individual grapes then is our individual smaller oversoul. And the name they gave me was the Shantias Khan. And when I asked them, well, why this name? They explained to me that I had had a lifetime where I was a shaman, and it's not necessarily on this planet, but I was a shaman, and I used a rattle. And when I used this rattle in a particular ceremony, I would call in a spirit into a child that was being born, and I would help to exit that soul as it left. And that process was named the Shantias Khan. And so a lot of people call it the oversoul. Just, the oversoul. But for me, they called it the Shantias Khan. And they explained to me that that is that houses all of our information. It's like our own personal cloud storage. And all of us have lived many, 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 many lifetimes. We have been angelic beings. We have been Pleiadians. We have been Arcturians. We have been Andromedans. We may not remember all of them, and we may remember just that last lifetime that we had and have that most resonance with it. But all of that information is contained within that oversoul. And so from that oversoul, when we incarnate, there's like this, the way I see it is this massive swirl of energy. Now, oh, and I'll come back to that. Okay, so there's this massive swirl of energy, and as that energy comes down and it attaches to the human form, that part that's still attached to our oversoul or to our Shantias Khan is called our higher self. And as it attaches to the body, it's then called our essence or our soul, which is basically the personality of this lifetime. And when we drop our robe, so to speak, in death, all of that information goes back into the oversoul or the Shantias Khan. But as that oversoul is coming down and as that energy is filling up and creating our etheric bodies, that's what's called our spirit, because that's what enlivens us. That's that action-oriented part. That's where we have our mental processes. That's where we have the emotional energies that start to then come into the human form that cause chemical responses in the brain that then evoke an emotional response. And so, or it evokes some type of a disharmony or dis-ease within our physical bodies. And so when they explained that to me, I'm like, okay, I really don't get it all right now, but okay, thank you. Because for me, it really opened me up and expanded me. And I have to say, when these experiences started happening to me, I came from such like a closed box. And if it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe such a thing possible. I really wouldn't. I don't think that the trajectory that I was on and the particular timeline that I was experiencing would have allowed that. And so I am so grateful for the walk-in and to have this opportunity. And I came from a collective of beings, which act as my guides, which are my higher self. And so prior to incarnating, I was part of this collective, and I was on a totally different timeline, way into the future than the soul that inhabited the body. And I had already called in all of my multidimensional aspects, and I, as a whole being, had merged with other whole beings. And there were tons of us. I could not even begin. I have no idea. But together we all merged to make this collective. And when we were in the Andromedan system working, and that's a story in and of itself that I I have now uncovered through hypnosis. But when we came to Earth, we merged with other collectives, and we began to work on the crystalline grid of this Earth to infuse it with this love energy and this awakening vibration. And so, knowing that, and then working with my guides, I could not. It's like, okay, so if I'm this oversoul, what happens to my oversoul? And what happens here? And what happens there? And they showed me, like, the universe, the beginning, like, of source, and how that energy started coming out in fibers of light that then came together to form these grids. And then these grids themselves began to form grids or nodes, very much like, if anyone's ever seen a photo of the crystalline grid of the planet, how when these grids come together, there's like a little ball of energy, and these are called the nodes. And so I was seeing this throughout the universe, and I was like, this is so cool. I don't even know what I'm seeing. I couldn't, at the time, I couldn't really understand and grasp and pull all of this information in. And over time, they have told me that this is the plasma of the universe, or the source DNA. And so for me, that was a very easy way to explain it. It's like, okay, this is really cool. And then they showed me how through this twisting and how this coming together and how these vibrations and frequencies, like frequencies, as they were pulsing, began to come together like magnets, that they began to form these masses called the universe, and how these universes then began to form planets. And the way they showed me, it was just like a twisting of that energy, and then it would come into a gaseous form depending on which of the templates that they were pulling from for this creation. Then when it came to the human DNA, because I was really curious by this time, and I'm like, okay, so how does that translate into us? And using the same plasma that's out there. And for me, they were showing it kind of like a piece of grid paper, and how the grids come together and they all form these pulsations of light, and they all vibrate and pulsate with different colors and at different frequency rates depending on what's occurring. And from within then this oversoul structure, when we decide that we are going to incarnate, there again, there's like this twisting pattern that begins to occur. And that is what actually forms our DNA. But that's the way it was explained to me. Other people may have a different interpretation. But for me, that was very easy to understand. And as this twisting of DNA begins to occur, that's what actually creates that conduit of energy from our oversoul, Shintias Khan, to our soul that gets attached to the body. And that is actually then our higher self. But as that information comes down, then that is the epigenetics of our soul. That's what we have brought in for this lifetime, because there's no way, our souls are so huge, because we're having multidimensional experiences all over the place, and even multiple lifetimes in different time, on different timelines in this 3D space. And so as all of this information begins to fold, and it creates that fabric that makes up our soul of this lifetime, which is part of our higher soul. And so that was a very easy way that they began to explain the DNA. And so I'm like, okay, well, what does it have to do with the genetics of this physical body? And there are huge terminologies for everything that takes place in all of the various templates and how things are formed and come into being. But what they showed me at that time was when the genetics merge with our family, that creates this physical template. That's what gives us our genes, our hair color, our eyes, those kinds of things. Then when our soul epigenetics are in and intact in the body, they begin to imprint on the cellular structure as well. And so we actually have this etheric template, if you will, overlaid to this physical structure that actually creates the physical structure. It's just the denser form. And the physical structure carries the genetic DNA, the soul carries the epigenetics of the soul, and together they imprint on this physical structure that makes us who we are.
Mm. Ooh, there's so much good stuff in there, Sheila. Where do I even begin to comment on that?
That's what I was asking my guides. I'm like, whoa, at the time they were telling me this, I really couldn't comprehend it. And there are still things that they show me. And sometimes I will start down a path of study and they will stop me in my tracks. No more. You cannot study this anymore, because they want my memories to retain that truth of what my memories are, and not say, oh yeah, I agree with that. Now, why do I agree with it? They want that information to come into me first. And so, I'm a student that studies a lot of stuff and then has to stop right in the middle because I'm so interested. It's almost like everything out there draws me in, and I want to share everything with everybody.
I love it. So as you were speaking, I'm very clairvoyant. So I'm seeing this amazing movie. Like, I want to animate the talk that you just did.
Cool. I'd love to see it.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, it would be.
But one of the things, and I kept hearing collectives, and then you launched into the collectives. I'm like, it's all about the collectives, which has been coming to me a lot lately too, in that, this, like, who I am is Waxela, who you are is Sheila, who each of us is a collective. It's not just, when we've done a lot of spiritual work, or we've had a walk-in, or we've opened up and practiced this expansion for lifetimes, it's no way that it's just one personality, one limited being. We are a collective, not just of beings, multidimensional beings, but of patterns, which, it informs the collective. And as you were speaking too, I was seeing the solar system that we're in. I've seen an animated picture of this in the past sometime, but that was brought back to mind how it's as if it was spiraling through the universe, if it was sped up and, like shooting through the universe, but creating those DNA spirals. That's our solar system, so that all the other solar systems in the galaxy create the DNA of our galactic being, and then all of the galaxies create the DNA of the universal being.
Yes.
And then the universes perhaps create the multiverse. But those DNA strands, and the more I learn about DNA, it's not just that we have our active strands and just a total of 12. It's 24 or 48, or it could be many. What do you experience around the DNA? Can you go ahead?
Yeah, well, for me, what they have shown, depending on the energy frequencies that we hold, depending on the vibrational levels that we incarnated, that were immediately imprinted into our soul, that is what actually activates these etheric threads of our DNA. Because if you begin to talk to science, they might say, yeah, there could be possibly a third strand, there might be, but when you start talking about 48 or 96, they start to look at you like you're crazy. But the reality of it is, it's all the expression of the plasma. Everything is the plasma. Everything is connected through these electrical threads of energy. And so, when the Native American people talk about the web of life, that's exactly what they're talking about, are these threads of energetic plasma that connect each and every one of us. And as they have shown that to me, there are different collectives that, of course, are going to vibrate at different rates, which hold different DNA patterns. But once we get to a certain level, once we move back in to our oversoul energies itself, into the fullness of the totality that we are, it's almost like DNA goes away. because we are part of all that is. And right now, being in human form, we try to come up with, like all of these names for what I'm experiencing. Oh, I'm a soul exchange walk-in. I'm a this, I'm a that, or this is a frequency of this level or that level. And then this is how the dimensions are created. And all of that is important for our human minds. But once we get out of this human form, it just is. Everything is just this beautiful flow. And that's what I remember about being part of my collective. It wasn't like we had this physicalness about us, and it wasn't like we said, oh, we're a hundred and some strand DNA being, or we're a this or we're a that. We were pure love. We were pure light. We were pure consciousness. And as such, that's the only way that we were really able to affect what was kind of happening on the planet. Gaia was crying out for help, and we came for assistance, but we could only do so much. And myself, yourself, others, many people that are listening, we came into human form to be the boots on the ground. We're the ones that are here implementing these higher plans. We're the ones that are talking at different levels to people about, the DNA of the universe, about all of the different quantum physics theories, or we're talking about, soulful awakenings, forgiveness, all of these types of things, because we have the mouth that we can speak and people have the ears that they can hear. And then the vibrational resonance that we speak even carry that light coding. And to me, the light codes that we carry within us, that all of us carry within us as they open up, these are more of those DNA expressions. These begin to meld then in with our crystalline blueprint, in with that etheric nature that we truly are, and it begins to activate new codes. It's almost like little keys that turn on new knowledge sets.
Yes. Oh, gorgeous. So, as you're talking about epigenetics and I love Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. He talks about epigenetics and how the culture in the petri dish, which in ourselves is our bodies are the petri dish, but that's what causes a gene to express. So when you're talking about this etheric DNA, that really is the petri dish, or the petri dish is the liquid crystal plasma, the plasmic energy that causes the expression, or the epigenetic expression of our being. And so I feel like that is a great lead in to this. This show is all about expanded states of consciousness. So let's talk about the culture, or the petri dish that will bring us to the expression of expanded states. Because you can share these things, and all of these speakers share these amazing things that they get from guidance or they've seen or experienced. But I think for some people that maybe haven't had those experiences or desire to, there's got to be a way to share. Where do you go and how? A little bit about how do you get there? Do you have a ritual? Do you have a practice, or is it a spontaneous thing that happens? What can you share about that?
Yeah, it's all of that.
Yeah.
For me, I have melded more with my collective. I am my collective. I act as my collective. They work through me. There's nothing that I do, nothing that I create, nothing that I say that is the brain of Sheila Seppi. It's all the energy that we together are co-creating for the experience that we're having and the expressions that are occurring. And so for me, early on, some of the things that I did, and I still do this, I will just spontaneously awaken around 4 o'clock in the morning. And for about an hour, I just lay there and I just imagine myself dropping into myself, if that makes sense. So what I do is physically with my eyes, I just kind of roll them back and just allow that feeling to occur and to move through me. And I see myself dropping in to this crystalline blueprint or the etheric body of who we are. Now, once I get in to that etheric body, I can do anything. I can explore. I can connect with past lives, future lives, any of these things. I can travel. I can astral travel. I can project because I am in that etheric nature. And so I drop into that space and just allow things to come to me. Because we're all in human form, we're going to have thoughts that then start to, it's like, oh yeah, this morning I need to call. No, let's just let that go. And so as those thoughts come in, I just see them as little light threads that just sort of, move across the space of my mind, and I just let them go. And I have, learned how to acknowledge, but to release them. If I start to fight them, no, I can't see anything. I have to be in a blank space. Then you start really processing. But if you just allow things to come through, but for me, it's always a dropping inward. Um, and I think that that is probably one of the largest lessons on that I've learned during this lifetime, that this lifetime is not about, yes, it is about the activation, and yes, it is about the ascension process and assisting with that ascension process, but it's also dropping into the fullness of our souls and allowing this human experience to occur from a place of soulfulness, of knowing who we truly are, extending and exuding that unconditional love that we all have, that unconditional forgiveness that we all have, compassion, light, the experiences, and experiencing the good and the bad through the wisdom of our soul. Because when we allow our brains to start thinking, they just start clicking. It's like, oh my God, look what's happening, and we just start down this huge rabbit hole that really is taking us out of the soulfulness expression. And so I don't always do it because I'm just as human as the next person, but I do know and operate from that place of soul as much as possible. But we all get triggered, and I think what has happened is, in 2012, we had these massive waves of energy, which are actually coming to the planet again towards the end of the year. But anyway, we had these massive waves of energy that came across the planet, and it truly transitioned 100% of humanity into the 4D. Now, not everybody was ready for the 4D. A lot of people were ready for the 4D because they were already working on 5D and above, but it put us in this transitional space. This transitional space is what I call that place of choice. Do we choose service to self? Do we choose service to humanity? Do we choose the light? Do we choose the dark? Do we choose the materialistic world? Do we choose the place of spirit? All of these things are happening. I use my parents as an example. They're in their 80s. God love their hearts. They don't understand me, but they accept me and they listen to me. And I can see how they're changing over time. The biggest thing they have done, they don't watch the news anymore because they understand that's false programming, and that the vibration, even if it's real, even if they're hearing about a car accident in an adjoining county, the vibration of that energy begins to impact and to lower us. And so because we're all in this transitional 4D space, we're still bound by this 3D. And I'm talking the consciousness process. We're all 3D, having this 3D experience on the planet, but I'm talking more of a level of consciousness. So we all came into that 4D. Some people were ready and used it as a springboard to elevate themselves higher. Some people have used it as an experimental bed, you know, kind of like a garden where seeds have been planted and now they've been nurtured and they're starting to grow and open up. And then some people just totally turned away from that. And I think that it is this space where we're now starting to see this division of thought. And as we embrace our higher natures, I believe we're having more and more of downloads. And people right now across the planet, they're having more and more information come to them. They're anchoring more and more of their higher selves, more of that, you know, the Shantias Khan energy into their souls. They're having Kundalini awakenings. All kinds of things are happening. And then some people are very gently experiencing these things. It's kind of like a gentle rain. You know, you get in the summer, it's warm and it's nurturing. You just want to be out in that rain. And that's kind of what's happening. All this information is coming to them. And as it kind of imprints and touches their body, it begins to very gently wake them up, so that when they extend a smile to someone, they're actually sending light through that smile. When they look at someone in a loving way, they're sending light codes through their eyes. When they begin to speak and to talk, there's a resonance of their voice that really begins to wake people up, or even to plant seeds within their etheric body that as others come in will nurture like the rain and begin to open those seeds up. And so all of us on this planet are here by design right now. And I know a lot of people feel like, I don't really know my purpose. I don't think I have a mission. But if you're here on this planet, I can guarantee you, right now at this time is one of the most important times ever. And you do belong here. You are here for a reason. And some people's reason is to help others wake up. Some people's reasons are to hold the light for others. Some people's reasons are to go through life saying, what if? You know, what if this really is true? And then they begin to evoke and to bring in higher light codes. Because remember, every thought that we could ever possibly think, every decision that we could ever possibly make is housed right here. Okay? Because even our oversoul has an oversoul, and that's our oversoul of choice. And everything kind of intermingles. And so people are like, well, if everything's already been decided, then we don't really have that free will. But we do. We get to choose how we express our divine nature. Because remember, everything is about choice. Everything is about experience. Some of my clients will come to me and it's like, oh my God, I've been this horrible person and I've done this and I've done that. And it's like, so it's an experience. Did you learn from it? Because from the other side looking in, it really doesn't matter what's happening. They're all experiences. There really is no good. There really is no bad. There's just the vibrational frequency that our actions are emitting. And so if we're having these lower experiences, we can always shift that by shifting our mindset, because that's the only thing that we can control. And so when we drop in to that space, and in those hours between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, when I'm in there exploring and I'm allowing new sections to begin to light up, and I move into that frequency, I start receiving my downloads for the day. And so everyone can do that. Everybody can do that, because every person has the etheric body. Every person has that crystalline template within that body. And it may not be that they have the same experience that I do, or that you do, or that the next speaker has, but they will have their own experience, which is perfect for where they are right now. So for me, that was one of the easiest ways that I could begin to tune into, what do I need to do? The other thing for me is, initially I had that mind chatter. It was like, oh, I need to clear this, I need to clear that, I need to do this, I need to do that. And everything was running together. Over time, I laugh sometimes. My son will say, what are you thinking about? And it's like, nothing. How do you do that? Well, I don't know. It's kind of empty up there. So I wait for my guidance, because if I start trying to co-create things, I guarantee you they're going to have that human element to it. And then there's going to be obstacles to overcome. And so trying to still the mind is one of the biggest gifts that people can give to themselves. And just sitting and just being. Maybe you start with 2 to 3 minutes of just being, just focusing, just connecting, just allowing information. Our guides cannot speak to us through that mind chatter, because it gets lost. And then we don't know is it me talking? Am I thinking about this? Am I just thinking I'm thinking? And then when we do hear our guides, we start second guess. Well, was I just making that up? So learning to quiet our mind. And I start my students out with 3 seconds. Clear the mind for 3 seconds. That's it. Don't think about anything for 3 seconds, and then build up from there. And people are like, 3 seconds? Well, that's easy. Then they come back, it's like, oh my God, 3 seconds is a long time. But clearing the mind and allowing spirit to speak. We all have a soul. We all have that eminence running through us, that divine spark of source energy. And if we can quiet ourselves enough, that information, that knowledge, those ideas will begin to flow. So for me, still, I know this is a long answer to a short question, but coming to a place of stillness and then turning our thoughts inward, literally using your eyes to roll back into that essence of who you are, because then we're rolling back into our original sight. The third eye that we all work with, that is our original knowingness.
Wonderful. Those were just amazing pieces of advice for people to start their own practice. So thank you for unpacking that. And it's truly everyone does have their own way, but I think some of the key pieces of that are, you talked about going within. And I do get a lot of people who message me or my clients and things who are always wanting to go out of body. Like, I want to go out of body. And, big part of my teaching is it's all accessible from within you. First we go in, and then you can open up to everything else. So we definitely have that in common. I think that I go into the heart space, and for me, the heart is the hologram of the whole, of the divine. Anything is accessible through that heart's hologram. So going within is a key. And then another part of that, of course, the stillness. For some people, that's very difficult to reach a point of stillness. But I love the 3 seconds, anybody, you can kind of do anything for 3 seconds, right? Something I had heard about that on a podcast recently, it was Brian Scott was interviewing someone, and I can't remember who, but the person he was interviewing said, yeah, if you can imagine your eyes without a brain, just your eyes floating in space, not attached to the brain, try it.
Oh, I love that.
And anybody that wants to try it just right now, try it. Like, there's no thought connected to it because the brain is generating thought. It's so fun. And I've been practicing that ever since. It really works. And so people can play with that. I know sometimes it's really hard to shut off the brain. So tricks are good. And then the third thing that you talked about that I think is so valuable is feeling. You're dropping into the feeling, and that feeling space is where I feel like the timeline shifts, where we create the flow so that things really can come in and drop in. So to notice, like, I tune into my body. If there are parts, sometimes there's a part that's speedy or yelling or, kind of like, hey, I need attention over here. And I let that speak and, work itself out, and then allow the whole, the whole collective of my body to relax and go into that flow state. So, just little pieces of the puzzle. And of course, everyone's going to have their own way, but I love what you've shared so far. And this is just such a huge, delicious topic of how do we reach those states?
Right, right. And meditation is so different for everyone. Most people think you just have to stop and be, and that's great if you can. If it weren't for the 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, by the time I get up, I'm already moving, I'm starting my day. But I can drop into a space of meditation when I'm walking my dog in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
When he decides he wants to go into the woods and we sit on the rock and we look at the mountains. So anyone can drop into that space of mindfulness. And I'm going to share, every single person here, they might be saying, oh, I can't do that, I've tried it. You do it every day. You do it several times a day. First, when you're waking up and there's that space of really no thought, where the body is just starting to come into being. And when you go to sleep at night, you're dropping into that no mind space where everything becomes blank and you drift off. So you already know how to do that. The other times that we're doing that is like if we're driving down the road and the next thing you know, we've gone from point A to point B, and it's like, wait a minute, how did I get here so quick? A lot of people say that's self-hypnosis in a way, but in that state, we really aren't thinking. We are just being. We're mindful. And that's the other thing I would encourage people to do, is to drop into a space of mindfulness. Focus. If you find that it's difficult to clear the mind, focus the mind. Be at one with, okay, I'm going to open my computer. What does that sensation feel like? I'm opening the computer. I feel, the hardness, but yet there's a soft texture to the computer because it's very smooth. And so now you open it up and you put your hands on the keys. What's that texture? Become aware. Let your fingertips become eyes for knowing, because information can come to you through your fingertips. Maybe you have a pet. As you're petting that pet, what does it feel like to be rubbing, to feel that fur, or to feel the hair, or whatever it is? What's it like, to be drinking that hot cup of tea? What does that feel like? And to drop into that, because that's a very easy thing. We can all do that. We don't have to clear our mind. I can pick up my cup of tea here. What does the cup feel like in my hand? What does this warmth feel like? Does it evoke a sense of excitement, or is it very, very calming? What's it like to bring it up? So focus on the sensation and just practice mindfulness. We can all do that. What's it like to brush our teeth? To put the toothpaste, we can create a ritual of mindfulness with everything we do. And as we do that, we're pulling all of our energy from the past, the energy from the future. We're combining it and bringing it into this now moment. And when we're in this now moment, we are clear, we are open, we are focused, we are clear of thought, because we are focusing our attention on whatever it is that we're doing. And in these little bitty moments, our guides, inspiration, things can begin to move into us because we are in that no mind space. So that's another really easy way, the art of mindfulness.
Yes, that's true connected presence with all
Yes.
that we do. Beautiful. Thank you, Sheila. I can't believe this. Time has just flown, and I know when
Oh,
you
wow.
and I get together, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, there's so much more, but this is why you're a repeat speaker, and I'm sure there's more to come in the future. But I don't want to let any more time go by without introducing. You have a free gift for people, and that's go ahead. You go ahead and tell us about that.
So if people will visit my website, sheilaseppi.com, SHEILASEPPI.com, then and sign up to be on my mailing list, you will receive the first chapter of my book, Walk-ins Cosmology of the Soul. I also am putting up, and I'm working with somebody to help me figure out how to do this. There will be a little code on my website and a place you can go. And if you type in Waxela 22, Waxela 22, then you will get a diagram of what I've been talking about as well, where I have started putting together these diagrams to help share this information with people about source and how source comes out. And then there's that first vibrational frequency of the ohm, and then there's light, and then there's vibration and sound, you know, how everything commingles together. I'm putting that on my website as well. But then we also have some other special offers if you want to mention, and then I can go into detail about those.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so it's Waxela. For people that don't know how to spell it, I forgive you. It's Waxela 22. Will that be just all smalls, or is that how you want to do it? Or all
It's going to be
caps?
in all caps.
All caps. Okay, so put in Waxela 22 all caps, and you'll get that that free offer or visual. That sounds amazing. And then, so you also have two amazing offers for the viewers. One is the Galactic Star reading. The second one is the Crystalline Blueprint reading, activation and Arcturian healing chamber session. So first, tell us about the Galactic Star reading.
Okay, so with the Galactic Star reading, one of the things that I will do is I will look into the history that is found within the etheric body. I also will call in your guides and all of your galactic team members, maybe some of your ancestors, whomever wants to show up. And together, I will let people know where their original soul origin occurred. And then people will, a lot of times, and 99% of the time, they'll also receive what their vibrational frequency name was. I know when I began, my original frequency name is Nawaila. And so, and it's very funny because now it's like Waxela, Nawaila, Sheila. We've got all of these, you know, sounds that really translate that vibration of who we truly are. And so that is something that they will receive in that galactic star reading.
Wonderful. So do people receive that themselves, or do you receive it for them? How does that work?
I will hear that for them. And as I speak it to them, most people will say, oh my God, that feels exactly right. Or they'll just start crying because it sparks this this memory. It opens up these light codes of remembrance inside of them, and it's such a powerful reading for people.
Wonderful. Yeah, I know when I got my name, Waxela, my whole, like, I really feel like it was like an opening to receive more of my collective of who I am, and to be able to operate with more pieces of the puzzle. It's more of my soul fragments, if you want to call it that. It's like everything just came in, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. So beautiful. That's very powerful for people. And now tell us about the crystalline blueprint reading.
Okay, so when I go in to that crystalline blueprint reading, the galactic lives will start to come forward. We will have ancestral information that comes out in the form of what are you carrying in your genetics that you want to clear, what's up for you. We also will go in, and then I'll be able to see different patterns, different thought patterns, different behavioral patterns, and all of that will start to come forward, and it brings it up for healing to occur. And then for that healing piece, I will call in the Arcturians to come in. Now, the Arcturians gave me permission to work with them because when I embodied, I brought initially more of those Arcturian aspects of myself in, because the soul that was in this body had been Arcturian, and that way I didn't fry the neurology. And as I worked on that biology, I was able to then bring in more and more. So in this Arcturian healing chamber, they will help to release and to pull out some of those things that are ready to be released, and they may even identify and bring healing. I know there are a lot of clients that I've been working with that the Arcturians will identify illnesses in their bodies, and then a couple weeks down the road they're like, oh my God, I just got my blood work back, and before we did this session, X, Y, and Z was prevalent, and now it's not there anymore. And so the Arcturians are very, very powerful healers. So I work with the Arcturian medical team, and they will take people to different chambers of light. Sometimes they will pull them out of the body and work on the etheric nature. Sometimes they, it just depends on what that individual needs. But I just sit back, I'm the observer, and as they are doing this work, I am a participant in the fact that I am telling the person what I'm seeing, what's coming up, and what they're telling me.
Wow. Yeah, I'm signing
that's
up for one of those, Sheila.
Intense. So eat your Wheaties.
Get some protein before.
That's right. Get some protein before we meet on that one. It can be really intense.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun. I'm definitely going to sign up for one. I feel like you should do you ever have like people come on and talk about their experience with you?
I haven't.
Heard it. I'm seeing, like people who do QHHT will oftentimes, like I've done that with people before, come in and talk about, what the experience was like for the participant. You could have a whole podcast on people sharing their experiences in your healing sessions.
Great idea. It's amazing what comes through. Sometimes, people have gotten, they'll show me like a future aspect in this timeline of what the person is supposed to be doing. And like, there'll be a creation of an entire ceremony around that. And it's like, okay, well, you got to do this and this and this. And they're like, oh my God, I've already been told that. And, so it's really amazing. So yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm seeing that, like, so fun for you. Okay, well, we can do that.
Yes. Oh,
I'll do that. I'll start.
If you decide that you want to take advantage of either of those readings, then when you check out, you'll put in Waxela 22, and you'll receive a 10% discount.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you. Yes. And so it's, again, all caps WAXELA 22. And I will make sure in the show notes, I will have links so that people can just click on it so they don't have to type it in. So if you have access to the show notes, just go there and grab Sheila's offers and free gift. And wow, this has been so enlightening. Sheila, I love your energy, and you bring through such high quality information, and at the same time, very relatable and digestible. And I appreciate you so much for that and for all you do. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And thanks to everybody out there for watching. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. Be sure and grab all of Sheila's wonderful offers. And thank you for joining the Alchemy of Ascension Season 6. Namaste. If you're looking for spiritual community on your ascension path, you have found it. The Alchemy of Ascension community membership is a brand new membership that I have launched to bring together spiritual seekers, people who are actively working their ascension path, their ascension journey. And I know that for me, when I was younger and deeply into my spiritual path, I felt really alone on my journey. I didn't have spiritual community. And part of my mission now is to bring together people from all walks of life, from all over the world, and create a platform where we get to share together and be together. I will be in there with you every month doing activations and sharing information. I am really setting it up as an interactive community experience. So it's not all about me, it's about you. You get to meet like-minded people, interact with each other. There will be plenty of opportunities in a forum where you can chat, where you're not on social media, so you're all in this protected container together. There will be a book club. There will be mastermind opportunities. There will be breakout groups where you just get to know each other, get connected, get related, and make new friends. This is the very thing that I always wished that I had when I was younger and just starting out on my path. It is my greatest service to be able to provide this for you at a really low cost that I think is very fair. And so founding members are going to get to enter at $33 a month. And that will provide everything that the membership has to offer and a wonderful, beautiful experience as a member of an Ascension community. So if this is speaking to you, if this is something that you're interested in, find the link below and join me as a founding member. This is a limited time opportunity for founding members, and there will be a hard stop. We will close this opportunity at the end of the summit. So join us now and be part of this brand new community for all of us who are working on our ascension together. I appreciate you. I love you. Namaste.